Welcome to What a Creep, the show with Margot Donahue and Sonia Mansfield talking about creeps from the past to the present.
This is your quick guide to the biggest creeps, jerks, assholes, and losers, the best of the worst.
From two nice ladies who want the world to be a little less creepy.
Welcome back to What a Creep. This is Margot Donahue, and my cohort in creepitude, as always, is the amazing Sonia Mansfield. Hey, Sonia.
Hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend. We are the show that talks about creeps from the past to the present. This is a present-day creep we're talking about today, and if you're new to the show, this is the deal. We pick a creep, and then we always pick a non-creep, so you leave feeling good about the world. Sometimes it's a murderer, sometimes it's a shyster, sometimes it's a thief, sometimes it's an old-timey creep. Today, it's a shyster creep, I would say, or something a little bit more.
Yeah, more of a motivational coach creep.
Gotcha.
You know, some questionable methods and some busy hands.
Oh, handsy creep.
A handsy creep.
You could find us on Facebook with a basic Facebook page, but we barely check that page because that's only a place where people go to complain about our language, because we use salty language in this program because we're goddamn adults.
Fuck yeah.
We are mostly interactive in our Facebook group. You do have to answer 3 questions in order to join the Facebook group, but it's at What a Creep Podcast Group. We also have a Twitter thingy going on. We could have had What a Creep on Twitter, except somebody else had that. They never used it for 10 years, so we had to settle for Creep Pod.
That's right, Max. Creep.
That's Sonia's dog, Max.
Max says that person's a creep, and I agree.
We're also on Instagram at What a Creep Podcast. Be sure to like us on all the social media places. And if you would like to get some stickers, send us an email. We have an old-timey email, whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. Also a great place to send us your suggestions for creeps and also non-creeps, because we always need help with those non-creeps. Sometimes that's the last thing we could find.
Yeah, sometimes it's a little harder than you think. Sometimes we get like for today's creep. By the way, Tony Robbins is 6'7", and I was just like looking up for people that are 6'7" and not creepy. It was the trouble. It was troublesome. I love the random connection that we try to find between our creep and non-creep, and sometimes it works, and sometimes we just pick a non-creep that deserves a shout out.
Exactly. You'll find out who that is at the end of the show.
Yes.
Sonia, do you want to talk about our website?
Yes, it's whatacreeppodcast.com. It's everything you ever wanted to know about the podcast, but we're afraid to ask. It has links to all of our episodes, and in those episodes are our show notes. So we link to all of our sources for these episodes. We like to give credit where credit is due. We pay for a lot of subscriptions, and because we want to support our journalist friends out there who are doing the good work. So you can go there. And there's a link to our merch shop. So if you want t-shirts or tote bags, face masks, because despite what our president says, the pandemic is not over. Mm-hmm. The holidays are coming. There's a lot of great gift stuff in there. Do it. There's also a link to our Patreon page. You want to tell them about that, Margot?
I do indeed. Patreon. We put up our first 4 seasons there. We're going to put up season 5 pretty soon. Also, It's a place where we put up 2 bonus episodes every month. We just put up our first one for September. We're going to put up our second one next week. We also put out a newsletter every month. Also, it just once again helps throw a few bones our way. It helps us pay for the show, for all the costs of upkeep. And I want to say thank you to Lisa, Mary Ellen, Harriet, Kimberly, and Taylor, all of them for signing up for Patreon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I sent, email thank yous to all of you. Sometimes I just write creep in the subject line, so maybe that goes to your spam. But I do write back always, so do check your spam folders if you do join our Patreon page. And all of y'all, if you want some stickers or magnets or whatever, please let me know. I will send that out to you. And look, money's tight. If money is tight, inflation's rising, all that good stuff.
Yes.
If that's tough for you and you can't join the Patreon page, just, send us a review. on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And I just want to say a big old thank you first to Abby Richardson in Great Britain. She says she was listening to us all over the UK, and she did a 16-hour road trip the other week.
Damn.
And they listened to us almost the whole time.
Damn, that's a lot of creep.
That's a lot of my nasally voice. So thank you so much for doing that.
Your voice is delightful.
Thank you. Also from Great Britain, Alex Andromeda, first-time reviewer, long-time listener. We totally appreciate that. Also, Spotify, you can leave stars now wherever you listen, or just tell a friend about the show, or send us an email, ask for a sticker, slap it on your laptop, look like a cool kid at the coffee shop. That would be amazing.
Do it.
Do it. Sorry. My iced coffees.
Do it.
My iced coffee and my cap lady cup is like kicking in. Sonia.
We're caffeinated.
I am caffeinated. Sonia, who is our creep today?
This week we are going to talk about Tony Robbins. Mm-hmm. Do you know who Tony Robbins is?
I sure do.
I know of him, and I've seen people make fun of Tony Robbins, but
I put a link
done...
in our Facebook group of Tony Robbins as performed by Ben Stiller from the much missed Ben Stiller show from the 1990s. Tony Robbins.
Oh, God. A brilliant show.
These are my teeth.
It's such a good show. Sources for this episode, y'all. The Atlantic, BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed did a ton of work on Tony Robbins, so there's 2 links for BuzzFeed in this. Headstuff, Incorporated Magazine, New York Times, Now This Is News. It's a link to a video. Nicki Swift, Tony Robbins' own website, and of course, the fine people at Wikipedia. So, Tony Robbins is a motivational coach, speaker, and author. Pretty well known. He does seminars all over the world. He's got tons of self-help books, including 6 bestsellers. Things like Unlimited Power, Awaken the Giant Within, Giant Steps, Money, all caps, Money, Master the Game. And his most recent book is called Life Force, How New Breakthroughs in Precision Medicine Can Transform the Quality of Your Life and Those You Love. That just rolls off the tongue.
What does
So
he know
good.
about medicine?
I don't know.
Whatever.
He has worked with 4 U.S. presidents, top entertainers, people like Oprah, Aerosmith.
Is he like the drum kid with Joey Kramer? You can drum better, man. Come on.
It needs more cowbell. This is what made me laugh. It's all top entertainers, and here's who they list. So it's like Oprah, Aerosmith, Green Day, Usher, Pitbull.
Yeah, Pitbull's popular.
Pitbull, sure. Hugh Jackman, Kim Kardashian, big athletes like Serena Williams. I mean, she's fucking rad. And then even like the Golden State Warriors, which is my local basketball team. Fortune magazine has named him the quote-unquote CEO whisperer. He's worked with like Salesforce.com founder Marc Benioff, Mandalay Entertainment CEO Peter Guber, Guber, and real estate developer and creep Steve Wynn. He's on the list.
Yes.
Tony Robbins is estimated to be worth $500 million. Dude's fucking rich. And we love to point out, well, we don't love to point it out, but we do point out when our creeps do good things. He's done good things. I'm sure he's helped countless people. He works with Feeding America. He's got like a Tony Robbins Foundation that's, given grants to like health and human services organizations. We always point out when our creeps do good things. Mm-hmm. But he's also done some creepy stuff too, including berating abuse victims at his shows and sexually harassing female fans and employees. So let's start at the beginning.
Was he a big baby?
He's a... You're a big baby. Actually, I am going to explain how he got so tall. Anthony J. Sorry, here we go. Mahavrik is his name when he was born. He was born in North Hollywood, California on February 29th, 1960. He's
A leap day.
Yeah, he's a leap day baby. He's the eldest of 3 children. His parents divorced when he was 7. His mother, sadly, was an alcoholic who remarried several times, like a revolving door of marriages. At one point, she was married to Jim Robbins, who was a semi-professional baseball player, and he legally adopted Anthony when he was 12, hence Tony Robbins. During high school, Robbins grew 10 inches in 1 year.
Oh, that must have been painful.
Bananas.
Oh, my God.
So
That's
was
like
a massive growth
American
spurt.
Werewolf in London, kind of.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's some like this is some fucking Hulk shit right here. Like
Yeah.
a growth spurt, 10 inches. It turned out he had a benign tumor on his pituitary gland.
Holy shit.
This is a thing. I looked it up. So when you could get a tumor on your pituitary gland, and it releases excessive growth hormones.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's what happened to him, and he is now 6'7". That's real tall.
Yeah.
Yeah. He also, if you hear him talk, he has like a booming voice. Like,
And gigantic white teeth.
yes, he's very intimidating. So, at 15 years old, little giant Tony Robbins decided he wanted to become a sports writer because he failed to make the baseball team. But instead of taking writing classes, he just printed up business cards and said, "I'm a sports journalist." He did it. He talked his way into interviewing people like Howard Cosell, Ohio State football coach Woody Hayes, and baseball Hall of Famers Tommy Lasorda, and Leo
Droja?
Yeah. He did it all for the local paper.
Holy, look good for him.
Yeah, he's got a way with words. He knows how to persuade people to do things. His home life was very chaotic and abusive. He left home at 17. He got a job as a janitor and got an apartment. And the apartment's landlord recommended that Robbins check out this motivational speaker named Jim Rohn, I think is how you pronounce it. And he wrote books like 7 Strategies for Wealth and Happiness and the 12 Pillars of Success. And Tony Robbins scraped up some money. He went to a seminar, liked what he saw, got a job for Rohn, and Rohn became his mentor. And he got really into self-help. He was just all in on this. And he says it really helped him deal with his trauma. Like he, like I said, came from a really abusive household. And he became very determined to show others how to do it. So he started promoting his own seminars, which promised to, quote unquote, unleash the power within. And his business really took off. And his success story was really based on, like, look at me. I lost 38 pounds of fat. I'm married to the woman of my dreams. I don't live in my tiny apartment anymore.
Well,
I
yeah,
have Spanish.
Yeah, find one.
First of all, he couldn't fit in his tiny apartment, probably, right? Like, he moved to this like Spanish style castle in Southern California. It really took off, and it turned into the Robbins Research International. It's like a life coaching empire. It's huge. Like books, audio business, audio stuff, life coach certification and seminars. Some of these seminars people pay as much as $8,000
Jesus Christ.
just to be in the same room with him.
Just to see his teeth.
Just to see those teeth up close.
Those choppers.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. He's real tall. You don't have to be that close. You could sit in the way back and still see him, but whatever. It's your money. Spend it however you want. I found this interesting. So he did an interview with Incorporated Magazine.
Do you mean Inc.?
Yes.
Yeah, it's Inc.
Yes, it is Inc. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I thought it went by Incorporated. My apologies, y'all.
No, that's okay.
I don't read business magazines.
No. I worked in the magazine business, so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So he talked about his pre-show rituals, and I think stuff like this is interesting, so I wanted to include it. He begins his morning with a dip in a 57-degree coffin-sized plunge pool.
Coffins?
Okay.
But it would be a big
Coffin
coffin for
size.
him.
big coffin. It's probably a normal size pool for us commoners. Yes. And then before he goes on stage, he's like jumping up and down on a mini trampoline, and he says that he does a shift. Like, I do a little shift in my body to get myself in a strong physical state. And then I say, I now command my subconscious mind to direct me in helping as many people as possible today.
Okay.
So everybody should do that for themselves, and you too could be Tony Robbins. So I wanted to understand what his seminars are like, because obviously I've never been, because I don't have $8,000 lying around. Although, y'all could sign up for the Patreon and maybe, I could get there. But I wanted to describe what his seminars are like. But employees and audience members, they sign contracts forbidding them from recording what goes on inside. Yes. So, but some people have done secret recordings, and some members of the media have gone in and taken pretty good notes and secretly recorded stuff. So there is some stuff. Many people in his crowd are people, they're dealing with serious problems. That's why they're willing to pay this kind of money. They're not going because their life is fucking rad and they're looking to make it better. They're dealing with shit. So a lot of people in his audience are victims of sexual and physical abuse. They struggle with addiction. They have mental illness. They, and they're paying thousands of dollars to see him because they want to change their life. Are you going to get into the infomercials? I wasn't going to. Do you want to tell me about them? Go ahead.
So in the 90s, in the 80s and 90s, infomercials were really popular in the States. I don't know about the rest of the world, but he had these, awaken the giant within, and he just kept selling of whatever your problem is, if you get these CDs and these workbooks, they will figure you out. And then it was just person after person after person. I was overweight. I was divorced. I lost my business. I had this, I had a tragic upbringing. I had this or this happened to me. And I listened to these tapes, and they were tapes and then CDs and whatever. Yeah. And I was able to blah, 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 blah. And it was very convincing. Yeah. And they were on all the time. And they were on at stoner hours, overnight.
Totally. Yes. Yes.
Or people, if you were just, you're an insomniac because you're up all night because you're worried.
Yes.
Or you're unemployed and you're just, whatever. But they were on at these half-hour intervals. And they would say the same thing over and over again. So he was in the movie Shallow Hal, because he was so ubiquitous.
Boy, that movie.
Yeah, we'll talk about that maybe one day on our Dorking Out show, which is a movie podcast. But this is in America anyway. I don't know about the rest of the world, but Tony Robbins was kind of a thing. People talked about him a lot.
Yeah, and once again, I have no doubt that there's a lot of people that have been helped by Tony Robbins. And some of it is when you buy that ticket, when you buy that CD, whatever, you're making a conscious effort to be I'm going to do the work now.
Right.
So, you can attribute it to him, but you can also attribute it to yourself. You've made the choice. And but yeah, but it definitely, you couldn't get away from those infomercials. Yeah. I'm glad you brought them up. I cut them because the stuff was a little long, but thank you for bringing those up, because that's good.
It just was. I just wanted to bring that up because my friend, when I moved to New York, my friend's husband used to get those Tony Robbins. I don't know if he had them or he got them from somebody else.
Yeah,
but he put them on a tape for me and then gave me a bunch of them, and so I would listen to them. Yeah, and it was just a lot of this. It's all the same. It's have a purpose every day, make your bed, think of one thing you can change, and then the next day you'll think of something. I mean, they all say the same thing, but he's just very dynamic. Even in his voice, he's just really I don't care if you're a big tub of lard on the bottom of a closet, you can do anything. Just do this one, push the broom out of your way out of that closet.
Right.
You've done something. Oh my God. He makes it sound so amazing. But these tapes and CDs were $100 a piece or something. That's so Yeah, he was making money hand over fist with this shit.
Yeah, and there's things like that can help people for sure. But like I said, there's people who are dealing with much bigger problems.
Exactly.
And so here can be the problem with Tony Robbins or people like him, you know, even people like the Rachel Hollises of the world that we have talked about in past episodes. Like, there are licensed professionals who treat mental health issues, and they go to school and training for that. And there's like strict guidelines and ethical guidelines governing the work they do and their relations with patients, clients, you know, things like that. Self-coaching doesn't require that. Self-help coaching doesn't require that sort of stuff. So like, you could just say you're a self-help coach, you know, it doesn't require training. Good ones have training, obviously. Like, I'm not shitting on coaching. Like, I have a friend who's a life coach, and she's fucking smart as hell and like really good and has like helped a lot of people. Like, so I'm not shitting on this at all, but like, there's definitely, well, there's good and bad, like any profession, right?
Yeah.
So the core of Tony Robbins' teaching is that, you know, his people, you shouldn't see yourself as a victim. Like, you should see your pain as something to destroy. Oh, yeah. Like, it's very manly, you know, like, you're not a victim, destroy that pain. Like, you know, I'm not a fan of some of his messages. It's like, kind of like you're choosing to be a victim, you know, and I'm like, I did want to mention there was like an exclusive membership program on his website. It cost $85,000
a year.
Yes. Yeah. There were lower cost options too, by the way. There was some for like $249, but the most exclusive one was $85,000 a year.
Is that like personal coaching with him, or?
It says, experience all the action when you sit up front near the stage. These are the seats that Tony is most likely to interact with.
And do you do firewalking with it?
I believe you probably do.
Yeah, he has a whole coal firewalking thing, yeah.
Yes. Okay, so let's get into some of his creepy stuff. So on March 15th, 2018, he was in San Jose, California.
I went to San Jose State. Woohoo!
Yep, we know it well. And he was praising casino magnate, real estate developer Steve Wynn, who is a creep, and we're going to do an episode on him. He's been accused of sexual harassment at the very least.
And the worst plastic surgery you've ever seen in your fucking life.
I will say this, though. All the restaurants in his casino have vegan menus, have full-on vegan menus.
And he has great taste in art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been to his casino. I ate in the restaurants. I really love those vegan menus, by the way. They're fucking dope. But anyway, he's still a creep, though. Fuck that guy. So one of the attendees stood up, and she's like, hey, like, I think you're misunderstanding the Me Too movement. Legit thing to say. Mm-hmm. And instead of listening to her, like, he really doubles down on it. And he says that I'm not mocking the Me Too movement. I'm mocking victimhood. This is what he said. If you use the Me Too movement to try to get significance and certainty by attacking and destroying someone else, all you've done is basically use a drug called significance to make yourself feel good. So basically, fuck you. Like, the idea. And then he goes on to say, like, after, you know, he just shuts this woman down. But it's like
rape fame, by the way. They think you want that.
Yes,
sweet
we want
fame.
that. Yes. Glamour magazine had a great headline. It said, popular life coach Tony Robbins tries to mansplain Me Too. Mm-hmm. I was like, it's basically what it is. But he goes on to say that he's talked to more than a dozen men in positions of power.
Oh, please ask them.
Yeah, and they have said they are hesitant to hire attractive women because it's too big of a risk. So implying that these it's the women's fault for being attractive, not the men's fault
And it's
for
also,
the fact that they can't not sexually harass.
I
beautiful
can't
women.
keep my dick in my pants.
Yes.
And also, it's women's fault if they're not attractive enough, if they
Yes.
don't put enough effort into making themselves attractive. But if they put any effort into it, they're being stuck up, or
Yes.
they're being slutty, or they're putting on airs, or whatever. I mean, it's like you
Yeah.
can't win. You can't win.
No, you can't win. And so it ultimately his bullshit argument was like women who report sexual harassment, sexual violence, they're accused of seeking attention or criticized. This is what he's saying. Like, or well, he is saying that that's what they're doing. They're seeking attention. And then he criticized them for destroying like careers, basically. Like it's fucked up.
Right.
And, you know, unfortunately for him, somebody recorded all of it and it was all over the internet. And now This Is News compiled it and put it on Twitter. And I linked to it in the show notes. And it went viral. And, you know, it doesn't look good. Like, here's a man, a 6'7", like booming voice man just towering over this woman who's like, I think you misunderstand like what the argument is. And then he mansplains me too. And he says all these fucked up things. And, you know, of course he issues an apology. Like, I apologize for suggesting anything other than my profound admiration for the Me Too movement. It's like, whatever, you know, but behind the scenes, like he hired this really powerful law firm called Lavely and Singer. It's a Hollywood mega firm that has represented Bill Cosby and Charlie Sheen.
Who?
Who? Winning. And they sent a letter to the woman who posted the video online. Not the woman that confronted him, but another woman who posted the video online. She said they said it was a clear violation of the legal agreement that she had signed. Like, this is their thing. Like, he hired this huge law firm.
They said
and he's
snitches
like,
get stitches.
That's right. So it's like, you know, hey, I have nothing but admiration for the Me Too movement. You know, I'm sorry if, you know, for suggesting anything otherwise. Meanwhile, his lawyers are like, we're going to fucking sue you. Take that video down. They did not take it down. It's up. Later that year, there was a secret audio recording was released. And again, like, he just said a bunch of dumb shit. Like, he just really doubled down on it. And he said victimhood is now rewarded in our culture and that people can make claims about anybody and everyone jumps in to support them. And then at the same event, a woman comes up to the microphone and says that her husband is emotionally abusive to her. And he says, what the fuck is emotional abuse? Are we that fucking weak that someone can't tell you with passion what they fucking feel without them abusing you?
Oh,
It's really
my.
fucked
She paid for
up.
this?
Yes, exactly. And then he went on to say she's focused on her needs. We have not heard one thing in the last 12 minutes about his needs. And we're characterizing it as emotional violence. There's no fucking thing. Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
Yes, there is, sir. You grew up
Yeah.
with it, by the way.
Yes, exactly.
Where's your
And
fucking
then
empathy?
The woman says there has been physical violence. And he said, what led to that? What role did you play? Isn't that crazy?
Oh, fuck this guy.
Fuck this guy. He said, I'm not suggesting there's any excuse for hitting a woman, so hear me out, but I also want you to know that people don't just act a certain fucking way. Considering what he grew up with,
Yeah. What? Yeah.
for him to behave that way, the woman, she really tried to stand up to him, and it must be really hard in that situation because he's Tony Robbins, and like we said, he's very big.
And he's
booming
argumentative, and he's
Yes.
yeah, and he's just
Yeah,
used to being in charge, and everybody cowers to him.
Yeah, and she tried to, you know, describe like some of the things that she's dealing with, and he said, this sounds like somebody that actually wants to engage with you because he loves you. Like, it's really fucked up. Yeah. And then, so BuzzFeed gets this audio, they asked the woman, like, you know, does this upset you? And she said, I tried to take whatever I could from it to serve me. And she said, I didn't take it personally.
Oh my God. Well, yeah, because she's been so abused. She's like, feels like
Exactly.
she deserves it. This is just feedback. It's just feedback.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It was really upsetting. And here's why. So she's like, I didn't take it personally. That was her thing. And because she's had all this abuse, right? That's probably why she would answer something like that. But there are other people in the room who probably have also suffered that kind of abuse, and they hear that from him.
Yeah.
And they do take it personally, or it does, like,
or they're going to think like nobody cares, nobody gives a shit.
Yes. Nobody's going to believe me.
Right. Or even if they do, they don't care. It's my fault somehow. I attracted it.
Yes.
Oh, what a fucking
It's hurtful. It's awful what he did.
And it's like every once in a while some shitty person posts like, why don't women report more to the police?
Yes.
Why don't they call the cops when something happens? Why didn't you call? Because nobody does anything.
Yeah.
Even if you tell somebody, they don't do anything.
Yeah. Exactly. It's fucked up.
And it also, it ratchets up. Like they start with one thing and then it's another thing and then it's another thing. And then she's trying to say that. And he should be saying like, you should value yourself and let's get you out of there.
Yeah. But that's not.
Not what he's saying.
No, he's
saying she deserves it.
Yeah.
What a dick.
Because she's a victim, and you know, it's fucked up. And there's all kinds of secret recordings and transcripts that start coming out. And there's all kinds of just him yelling at survivors of rape and domestic violence. He invites them to share their story and then berates them on stage.
Fuck this guy.
You know, at one point he says to a woman, like, she's fucking using all this stuff to try and control men. You know, another woman said that her husband is physically violent and abusive, and he accused her of lying. And he said, does he put up with you when you've been a crazy bitch? See, fuck this guy. You know, and he's super inappropriate. Like sometimes he asks people to like touch themselves and simulate orgasms at his thing. And, you know, he's repeatedly singled out women in the crowd for like more personal attention. Like, it's fucking gross. Some of the attendees have complained about mental and physical issues at his events. They said that some of these events run for multiple days. They begin early in the morning. They go way past midnight.
Which is what they do in cults.
Yes. They only a few breaks for food and water. It leaves people like mentally exhausted, disoriented. Some of them are suffering dehydration as well. You know, it's fucked up. There's a man named Glenn Lekatansky. I got it. He was a registered emergency nurse that spent a decade volunteering at Tony Robbins events. That's right, Max. And he said that he often witnessed like guests become like mentally unstable due to lack of sleep, water, and food. Like he would have to treat dehydration, things like that at these events. Dude, this isn't fucking Woodstock.
Right.
This is supposed to be a self-help seminar. It's bananas. So there's also Gary King. He was a former director of security, and he said that part of his job was just like dealing with like emotional meltdowns, which sometimes involved suicide threats and attempts, and like it was just part of the job.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my, I keep saying that, but holy shit.
Yeah. I had no idea how deep some of this stuff went when I started, because I was like, I knew that like he had been shitty about me too. That was my original like, hey, fuck this guy. I had no idea about some of this other stuff. So one of the signature features of his events is the fire walk, which you were talking about. Even Oprah Winfrey has done it.
Oprah fell for it? What?
Yeah. Oprah. Come and get your boy. And come and get fucking Dr. Phil and
Oz.
Dr. Oz come and get your boys and take Jenny McCarthy with you. Come on, Oprah. Anyway, this whole thing about the firewalk, it's supposed to help you like overcome your greatest fears and reach your highest potential. I don't know. Sounds dangerous to me. I mean, more than like 30 people have suffered burns from the
you're supposed to
firewalk.
walk on these hot coals. And then somebody said to me once, like, well, if you walk really fast, you won't burn. I'm like, yeah, duh, you think? Like, if, I'm not going to linger.
Or don't do it. Just don't do it.
Or don't do it, right.
Yeah, so, yeah, a lot of people have been badly burned by this. So, FYI,
don't do that. That's stupid.
Don't walk on coals. There's other things you could do to
don't burn your
face
fucking
your fears.
feet. If you ever hurt your foot, it takes forever to heal. Like
yeah, y'all don't do that. You only have one body. Don't fuck it up with stupid shit like that.
Oh my God.
He's also a shitty boss, just FYI. You know, he tours around the country. He gets volunteers to work at his events. So they work like 12 to 18-hour shifts. They don't get food. They're literally in the room until Tony gives them permission for a break. You hardly get any sleep. And they are not rewarded with like pay or travel expenses, but they get to hear him speak for free.
These are my teeth.
Look at my teeth.
My favorite is Ben Stiller's thing. It's,
yes.
I am not evil. I am not the devil. I
After
hypnotize people with my teeth.
He did an event in March 2003. It was called Date with Destiny. And this was in Australia. And he had like a debriefing with his staff. And BuzzFeed got a copy of the transcript from it. And one woman, one of the employees, said that she was raped at the event.
Ugh.
And he just cut her off and said that she was just using this to try to control men.
What?
Yeah. He's like, I don't support anybody fucking raping her or taking advantage of her. This is what he said. But I don't support her fucking manipulating herself.
What does that mean? Oh, good.
She should just get over it. She should just...
This guy's foul.
Yeah, he said it's not really the primary experience of her life now. Basically, like, rub some dirt on it and walk it off. He's gross. He also has sexually harassed several of his employees. A former personal assistant said she had an affair with him when he was married to his first wife, Becky. But then she got fired when Becky grew suspicious.
Suspicious.
Yeah. Be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Another former staffer said that she was fired after she rejected his advances. Another employee said she worked for him for years, and during that time, he was always encouraging her to like break up with her boyfriends, offering to fly her out to visit him, gave her like a secret phone number, and the more she refused, the more he pursued her. Fucking
Pepe Le Pew shit.
So gross. Another staffer said that he exposed himself to her, that he would make her take notes while he was in the shower.
That's some Harvey Weinstein shit there.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you have to massage him?
I would not be surprised, but that was not mentioned. She said that like he would be like in the bathroom and he would say, "Come here, I need you to take a note of something." And she said he just didn't care. Like he would just like make her look at him naked. And here's one of my favorite parts. So through his attorneys, Tony Robbins denied any inappropriate sexual behavior and told him and said he never intentionally naked in front of employees. I was like, what the fuck? Intentionally naked. So what he means is, to the extent that he may have been unclothed at various times in his home or in hotels while working or dressing or showering, his personal assistant may have been present, but he has no recollection. So it's basically, LOL, it didn't happen, and if it did, it was an accident.
Oh,
I'm like, if you call your personal assistant in when you're in the shower to take notes, they're going to see you naked.
What an asshole.
He's such an asshole.
Ugh.
So the former director of security that I mentioned earlier, Gary King, also said that it was part of his job to find like attractive event attendees and get their phone numbers for Tony Robbins. And one of Tony Robbins' personal chefs said security guys were always telling them stories about the women they had to take up to Tony Robbins' room. It's like a rock show.
Yeah.
A woman who went to seminars said that he placed her hand on his crotch, touched her breast. Another woman said that he kissed her, hugged her, and groped her. Robbins, again, through his attorney, denies any of this, but he did say that before he married his current wife, Sage, that he would often like partake back in the day. He's been married twice, and he said in between wives, he was quite the player.
He was a poon hound between wives.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. So he actually said, this is an interview he did with Playboy magazine that said there was no drought for sure. I was like a kid in a candy store.
The chicks
So
wanted it.
Yeah, they wanted it. He said that women at his events were constantly propositioning him, and some wanted to have, quote, nice, interesting group experiences, but he declined.
Oh, yeah, sure. No,
Sure he did. So here's a couple of other rando shitty things Tony Robbins did. A video surfaced of him in the 80s dropping the N-word repeatedly in one of his seminars.
Well, don't be a victim, African-American people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he says if you get angry when you hear that word, basically, this is what he's saying to one of a black attendee at his event. If you like get angry when you hear that word, you have no control in your life. You're still a slave.
You're a victim.
Mm-hmm.
What an asshole.
Fuck this guy. And then the last one was a really great quote where I was like, ugh. Women's torment is that men fucking look, and men's torment is that women are fucking insane. That's what he says about us. We're insane.
He's a real gent.
When men are always saying that all women are crazy, it's because they're assholes that make people
Miserable.
angry. Yes, exactly. And
Yeah.
that's what Tony Robbins is.
They're cheaters.
Yes.
They're lying cheaters, by the way.
Yes. Yes. If you ever meet a guy and he describes all of his exes as crazy,
Right.
girl, run.
Yeah.
Run.
He's a fucking liar and cheater.
Yes. Yes. Fuck
Yeah.
Tony Robbins. So that's our creep. Fuck this guy.
Excellent work, Sonia. Holy
you.
shit. He didn't say any of that in those tapes that I heard.
No, that's weird.
Yeah.
They're selectively edited, I guess.
No, he sells himself as like an aw shucks. I'm just trying to help everybody. Just be the best
And once
selves.
again, I'm sure he's helped some people.
Yeah, but
But
know what
but
you're
also-
giving money to.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, you don't have
Find
to give
somebody
me-
else.
Yeah. Brene Brown or somebody.
Yeah, Brene Brown. That's a great one.
Well, we've
She's
talked
awesome.
about her before.
Yeah,
When we're
she's
picking
rad.
our non-creep. So let's do this. Let's take a quick break, cleanse the timeline, cleanse our brains, and let's talk about our non-creep this week. Sonia,
Yes.
do you remember the show Serial?
Oh, yes, I do.
Do you remember the name Rabia Chowdhury?
Yes, I do.
Rabia is a Pakistani American who was friends with Adnan Syed, who was the subject of one of the first big podcast supernova shows. It's one of the first podcasts for a lot of people that they got
Yes.
into. I'm an early podcast adapter. I started like in 2008 or 9, but this was
I was late to the show for sure, but Serial was huge.
It was huge. It's hard to overstate that. And this was only in 2014 and 15. And it started with Sarah Koenig, and she put out this show. And I remember there was this tweet by Patton Oswalt. He says, "Holy shit, are you listening to Serial?" I'm like, no, I better start. And I started listening to it. And like everybody else, I got caught up into it. And then Rabia, who is mentioned in the first show, was occasionally, she's a lawyer and she was friends with Adnan and said, I'm going to have to come up with my own podcast because the whole story is not being told here. I was like, ooh. And she had her own blog post going, and then she had her own podcast, and then she wrote her own book. So Rabia was born in Pakistan, and then she went to the University of Maryland in Baltimore. She's in the Muslim community there. She's a lawyer. Her brother was really good friends with Adnan. Mm-hmm. And she was around when Adnan was on trial for the murder of Heyman Lee. He was 17 when, and I think she was 17 as well when she was murdered. And we should remember that there was somebody killed in all of this, and that's nothing to celebrate.
No.
He was convicted on really shitty evidence.
Yeah.
If you
it's very, very circumstantial, a lot of stuff about cell towers, and this is like not solid. Let's just say not solid. Not
solid as a rock.
Mm-mm.
And she was an advocate for him. And so after Serial comes out and she has her undisclosed podcast, she has a best-selling book that comes out that's about him, and Justice after Serial, and then she has Adnan's story, The Search for Truth and Justice, which is a huge bestseller, and everyone loves the audiobook for that. Like she's a badass. Like she just on Twitter and for social justice. She's an attorney for helping, an immigration attorney. At the time that this was going on, she was in a bad marriage. She was in an abusive marriage.
Oh, I didn't know this part.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she was not able to help Adnan when he was on trial. She just figured he had what was someone who was considered one of the best defense attorneys in the city. If you listen to Serial, that woman's story is bananas.
Yes.
And unfortunately, it really hurt his case. I mean, there are a lot of things that hurt his case. I mean, I don't think enough is said about racism and Islamophobia.
Absolutely.
So she herself, she had all this evidence, and she worked on it for several years. He was convicted in 2000, I want to say, or 2001. She goes to Sarah Koenig, who at the time of the trial was a reporter for the Baltimore Sun, and that's why she picked her. And at this time, 2014, she was with This American Life, which is an NPR show. Ira Glass. This is Ira Glass. You know, that was one of my favorite shows for a while. And then I met him, and he's a dick.
I used to listen. Oh, that's
yeah, he sucks.
A bummer. I used to listen to it all the time.
I loved. I mean, I like the people on there. I just think he sucks. That's just me. Feel any way you want to feel. She goes to law school. She has a young baby. Her husband accuses her of abuse. Her baby's taken away from her for a while. She goes through a lot of shit. So she understands how one person could just say something and really fuck up your life. So anyway, she's all about Adnan. I got to get this guy out of jail. We got to get him a new trial. She gives the story to Sarah Koenig, and she thinks they're going to do a story on NPR. And the next thing you know, there's this whole series called Serial. And all of a sudden they're like, is he guilty or not? And she did not think that was going to be the show. She thought she was presenting, this is a case of a bad case, a bad judgment, and bad police officers, bad science, junk science.
Yes.
And a bad prosecution. And this was... Go ahead.
The guilt was not up for debate for her, but the show was definitely telling a story of, is he guilty or not?
Right.
Yes.
And we all kind of fell for it. I mean, I think it was...
For sure. It's really well done.
Right.
It's really well
done. It's NPR.
Yeah. And again, like, I don't know if we could stress enough how insanely popular this was. Like, SNL was making fun of it. They weren't making fun of podcasts before this. Like,
no.
It was, and people were like, the new episode dropped. It was like the fucking Game of Thrones of podcasts. Like, people
That's a good way to put it.
Were freaking out when new episodes were like, I listened to it like the second it uploaded, and like picking it apart, and like it was an obsession.
It was Thursdays, I think is when it dropped, because I remember that was like when I would teach Thursday evenings, that was like my evening walk.
Yeah.
And it's not like I would listen to it and take notes. Like, I just accepted.
Right.
I'm like, well, she's a reporter. She's reporting. Like, of course, what she's saying is true. And Robbie is hearing some of the stuff she's saying, and she's like, you've got to be fucking kidding me, basically. One of the policemen that she describes, she's sort of like, well, he's basically a good guy. You know, he's meticulous. And Robbie's like, are you fucking kidding me? Turns out, not great guys.
And to be clear, they both had different goals here. Like,
you're being much more generous than I am.
No, she was clearly trying to tell a certain kind of story. Now, whether or not that story is the whole story, clearly it isn't, but yeah. And that's a whole thing about media with like the both sides and
right.
Yeah. Like, yeah. I'll just leave it at that. Listen to the bonus ep for more thoughts on that. I went on last time.
Also, and I think there's a show called On the Media that's excellent, and they just did an episode, and they just interviewed Rabia, and they got a quote from Sarah Koenig. So you do hear both sides of how they feel about this topic. But Rabia, go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was just saying, you don't have to present both sides when one of the sides is facts.
Yeah. Exactly
what I was trying to get at in our bonus episode, which is like climate change is a real thing. You don't need to bring on a denier. Like, it's factually true. It's scientifically proven. You don't need to bring on a dum-dum who's like, actually, like, you don't.
Well, one of the things that I listened to today, because I went back and I do like the Maintenance Pod you and I were talking about.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Oh, such a good podcast. And they
just did one
Michael
about
Hobbs,
Goop.
Is that his name? He did one about Goop. And he's been also tweeting about Serial. So I've gone back and listened to Serial. And one of the episodes they had was what Adnan said, it is impossible for me to go from school to leave school. They did a thing where they timed themselves leaving school, murder this girl, hop in a car, go back, and then go to track practice. It's like 20 minutes. And so they're like, challenge accepted. And they treated it like it was a goof. Like they went about and she said to Adnan, yeah, we did it. We just had like a minute to spare. And I'm like, this girl was strangled to death. Apparently. That's what we know. I don't know. Like, but it's like,
right.
You left out the whole murdered part, like in the timeline. Like but I didn't at the time. I'd even say that critically to myself.
Right.
Like that's a whole. Anyway, so Rabia started. First, it was a blog, and then it was undisclosed. And she and her co-hosts went through because this is a terrible miscarriage of justice.
Yes.
Because Heyman Lee was murdered by somebody, and her body was just left out there. Her family doesn't know who the killer is.
Yeah. I mean, Adnan is convicted, but there's still a lot of debate over whether or not he's guilty, and the person who did it is out there walking around. And
right.
That is not justice. It's
not justice, and they need to go over the DNA evidence, and there's a lot of evidence and a lot of junk evidence that was given, especially the cell tower, which is totally stupid and totally...
Oh my God, the cell towers.
I was re-listening to that episode. So she starts Undisclosed, and they worked on 20 other cases in addition to that one with Undisclosed. She writes this best-selling book. Anyway, so this past week, Adnan is out of prison. He's under house arrest right now. This is what's incredible, is that Baltimore is basically the DA let him out and said, we can't stand by this conviction, which is very different from 23 years ago when he was put to jail.
Yes.
What the police was like, what that was like, what the DA's office was like. So the fact that they themselves are taking him out is pretty significant.
Yes. How
bad their case is against him. Yeah. So they have a month to decide whether or not they're going to. I would say that, so Rabia is very happy that her friend is home.
Yes.
I mean, very sad that he's lost 23 years of his life.
He was a teenager.
He was
when
17.
He went in.
Yeah. And very shabby evidence and it's really just terrible.
It's really scary is
Yes.
what it is.
And everyone should be scared because this could happen to anybody.
Yes.
You know?
And it has.
And it has. That's the whole thing too.
It's really fucking scary. And like he is out now in a world that is totally different
Right.
than the world when he went in. It's like Robbie has been tweeting some stuff about him like trying to use like an iPhone and stuff, and I'm just like,
it's like the Memphis 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, please, I was like, I want to hear about all the like him like using DoorDash, or like I want to hear all the stories of him like discovering like these things that like were not
the first thing he did. She said she took him home, and the first thing he did is he went right to the fridge and looked at the leftovers, which is like what any of us would do. Like, what can I heat up and eat right now?
Yeah.
It's the most human thing ever.
Oh my gosh.
So,
and just the amount of work that she's put into this. Like,
and so many times they were just knocked in the dirt. Like she would just put in so much work that she put into it.
Yeah.
And so this is where I go crazy. And it's also Rebecca Lavoie from Crime Writers On podcast. She's been a champion of Rabia forever. And she's been also banging the drum saying Rabia deserves a lot of credit here. And then Serial puts out a tweet and says, hey, we're doing a new episode tomorrow about Adnan. And they kind of mention Rabia, but they don't really go into, yeah. And then Ira puts out a tweet and he says, just so you know, Serial did the best job of reporting of anybody, period. Which was yeah.
Maybe just maybe don't tweet.
Maybe
right now.
don't. Maybe just put it away,
Yeah,
little man.
Like, yeah, just maybe just take a step back and realize that Serial absolutely played a part in like helping him get released, but she's the one that's been doing it from the beginning. So maybe you let her have her moment.
Let her have her moment. And I was listening to this one interview she did several years ago to promote her book. I wish I could remember. I'll look it up and I'll put it in the Facebook group. But this one man interviewed her and he kept going, like interrupting her, like a lot of women get interrupted. He's like, well, I'm an attorney too. And he says, well, if he didn't do it, who did it? Who did it? And she kept saying, that's not my job. That's literally not my job. My job is to show how he's innocent. That's what the police have to do. But this is like, people treat it like that's also she has to come up with too.
Yeah. It's like you have to produce the actual murderer in order to release someone.
It's like The Fugitive.
Yeah.
It's not enough.
Like,
Richard Kimball can't just get out of the train and escape. He also then has to find out all the ways that he's innocent. It's ridiculous. But anyway, it's a hell of a story. She put so much into it.
Yes.
And she does, like my point of saying, it's like she dealt with a lot of sexism and racism.
She got more shit than anyone should get on Twitter, on social media. She gets so much fucking hate. Like, to do the work she does and do it as well as she does.
Unapologetically.
Yes. And then to get the amount of fucking hate she gets just for not being white.
And not being like bubbly and blinking her eyes and like, all right, no, thank you. No, she just presents, she speaks clearly, intelligently, without bullshit, without guile, and just states herself clearly. And people are, it's just so infuriating. It's so completely infuriating. And
our legal system is just so fucking broken.
And I think, and this is what Rebecca Lavoie is saying, and I think other people need to say this too. New York Times now owns Serial. They own all their shows. They need to put a clip at the top of the show that says, Adnan's out of jail now. Like, everything we're presenting to you right now in this show is not fact.
Yeah.
Because it's reporting. So when you update your reporting, that should be in there. Right?
Yeah, actually it could be that they should add something to every episode.
It wouldn't take long. It's like 10 episodes.
Yeah. Also like the most recent episode should be like the top episode. You know, like if you went to like a serial page, that episode, like if I went and Googled like any like Watergate or something, you wouldn't get Watergate stories in chronological order. You would get the most recent Watergate story up top. That story should be top. He's free. Top.
Well, if you're going to download the podcast, though, it should.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way, but that's why you need it.
Right. But that's what they should be doing. The New York Times should be doing that with every digital episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They should. Absolutely. And they have not. Maybe they will. I don't know.
I can't think of a reason why they wouldn't do it. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I know. I hope he stays out. And I feel so bad. All that time lost. What a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, and I hope they find the real people. And
yes, I feel bad for her family too.
Yeah.
You know, there's, the brother spoke on Zoom, I guess, at the thing because he didn't hear about it in time to like go speak. And this is great for Adnan, but it's so horrible for that family because they're just like, now it's out there again, and we have to like relive it again, and the killer is out there, and that's awful. It's the same thing with the Jeffrey Dahmer stuff that's going on right now.
I won't watch that. Yeah.
No, I'm not watching that. Like the things that victims are put through, it's not like they get residuals, from this. Like it just opens the wound all over again, and I feel so terrible for them.
Especially Dahmer, because
it's so gross.
It's a case of also like the community reported to the police about him, and they did nothing. And they said things like, that looks like that. I was listening to one clip, and it was like a woman saying, that looks like a really young kid that he took home. And they're like, oh, no, they're just a couple of gay guys. Don't worry about it. She goes, no, but he was really young. And they're like, no, they're fine.
No, it's so fucked up.
It's so fucked up.
I'm not watching that Dahmer thing. In fact, I don't watch anything about Dahmer just because it's fucking gross and
upsetting. Yeah,
but yeah, blech.
Blech. All right, so that's our episode today. Thank you so much for listening. We would love to hear your ideas for creeps and non-creeps. We love it when you use social media. Annie Potts GIF, we got one from Ghostbusters. Any of our social media stuff, use that one. Once again, our email is whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. If you like the sound of our voices, and why the hell wouldn't you? We're just a goddamn delight. We're a 16-hour delight, apparently, Sonia.
Yeah, we are.
Put us on when you're driving next time around Europe.
We'll keep you company.
We will. We also co-host a show called Dorking Out. What are we going to be dorking out about next?
I believe we're going to do Bring It On,
which... So excited.
I have a story about going to see this movie in the theater that we're going to talk about. I'm looking forward to this one. Ooh. It's going to be fun.
I don't know the story. I can't wait to hear it.
Well, it's not like some great big amazing story, but I'm just excited to talk about this movie. I have feelings about it.
Excellent. Well, Sonia.
Yes.
Where can they find you?
You can find me at thesoniashow.com and The Sonia Show on Twitter and Instagram and the TikTok, where I'm there to ruin it for the kids. Where can people find you, Margot?
You can find me at Brooklyn Fit Chick for Twitter and Instagram. My site is brooklynfitchick.com, and I am at Margot Donahue on TikTok. Thank you all so much for listening. Please stay safe, and don't be a creep.
A creep.
Thank you for listening to us talk about creeps. You can follow us at What a Creep Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
But don't follow us too closely.
You can email us your creepy stories at whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com.
But please keep your dick pics to yourself.